So this we call the Afterburn. So if you have comments or questions, you can start typing them in, and Manny will go ahead and start noting them. Michael's got a question already. So if you're here, I'll just go ahead and repeat what he says when he asks it. So go ahead.
I just had a thought when we were talking about the ground. And I'm actually one of the guys I'm dealing with the garden and stuff. And so if you don't break up the ground, it won't even receive the water. The top gets so hard, it won't even receive water.
Okay, so he made a comment. When we were talking about tilling the ground or breaking up the ground, he said that he's one of those guys that's been working on his garden since he's been home. And he said, look, if you don't break up the ground, it won't even receive water. The water will just run right across and off. It will not absorb the water. You've got to grind it up and till it up and break it up so that it can receive the water. And if we understand water, we're talked about in Scripture, it's often talked about the water of the Word. And so that Word cannot be, received in ground that's untilled, that you haven't, broken it up so that it can be absorbed into the ground. Excellent.
So first one I have here is Matthew 13:23. It says, Rabbi, is Matthew 13:23 connected to the parable of the talents in Matthew chapter 25? Is the word /seed like the talents, so we are responsible to produce with his Torah and will be judged by our fruits?
Yes and no. I mean, look, he uses different metaphors with similar devices for the metaphor. So I would say yes. I'm sure there's certain things that are similar, but he was trying to make a different point in the parable of the talents that he's making here. Okay, this one has to do with the dirt, okay, and the type of ground to receive. The parable of the talents has to do with once I give you something, what do you do with it? All right, so that one's more about what we do with what we receive. This is our ability to receive and what will cause us a problem receiving. So Matthew 13 is more talking about the things that interfere with our receiving in the first place. And then what you do with it afterwards is what's being talked about in the other teaching.
Okay, next one is MTOI Urbana. Question on Matthew 18:23. The prior three conditions don't have a teacher and structure to ward off those situations. The ground is cultivated, tended, and worked by a teacher, which helps it bear the fruit.
Okay, say it one more time. What verse?
Matthew 18:23.
18, okay. No, I think you must be thinking about 13:23. Okay, because 18 is a whole different thing.
Probably. Thanks, Gary.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, you have to do all of these things. The teacher gets involved not in the tilling the ground, not in doing all the work you need to do. Now, the teacher, this teaching I just gave you, if you allowed it, might have tilled a whole bunch of ground in you. If you allow the teaching to do that, but you've got to do that part. The main part is that are you allowing a teacher to give you the information, help you with the understanding on how to till the ground, giving you things that, I say stuff a lot that people it just rides right through and just runs off their back like it was not even said, in one ear and out the other. Other people, it gets in there and it tears up a whole bunch of good stuff. But that's you who decides how you receive that. But what I brought the teacher in for was when it came to the first part, which it says about understanding. If you don't understand, you need to get the teacher. And I have to promise you that if you don't have this understanding yet, if you haven't figured this out yet, you will figure out eventually that there is, by design, only so much you can figure out yourself. By design, okay? Not because you're stupid. Not because you're not smart enough, not because you're not talented enough, not because you're not learned enough or whatever you want. It's because he designed it that way. He designed for the structure to be done with teachers. And so go listen to the teaching called, Learn and Teach the Torah. And I got to remember the names, there's too many teachings. Learn and Teach the Torah, which is a teaching that makes a case for there being Torah teachers. Okay? So please, don't fall into, this is the problem with unlearned, untrained people out there all running around saying, well, we don't need a teacher anymore. We all have the Holy Spirit, and then it just teaches us directly. And that just doesn't work, and it's not true, and that's why everybody's all confused. And they will do this. And the funniest one was a video I watched of a group saying that very strongly, and then spending in a 2-hour video, spending an hour attacking that we don't need teachers, and then the next hour answering everybody's questions. Why wasn't the answer to every question, just go home and pray and the Ruach will tell you? That should have been their answer to every question. It was incredible to watch them answer questions for an hour. I just laughed. Look, hypocrisy is probably one of the most common diseases we all suffer from, okay? We don't need teachers, but by the way, what are your questions? I'll answer all your questions. But we don't need teachers. The Ruach will answer all your questions, but ask them anyway and I'll answer them for you. That's just dumb. If the Ruach answered all your questions, why are you on YouTube searching 57 videos for answers? Because he didn't design it that way. You know who he gives the answers? The teachers. Why? Because they need to have the answers to do the teaching. And by the way, just because somebody has a platform doesn't make them a teacher. Okay, just because someone is teaching doesn't make them a teacher. Just because someone is preaching doesn't make them a preacher. Just someone who's singing doesn't make them a singer. Okay, someone playing the piano doesn't make them a pianist. Someone playing guitar doesn't make them a guitar player. Just because they're doing it doesn't make them anointed and appointed to do that. Some of you take food and put it in a skillet and cook it, doesn't make you a chef. Some of you have to warn people before they eat. Hey, I don't want to kill you here, just so you know. Or some people are warning people about your spouse. Stop doing that. That's not honoring to your spouse. Whichever spouse is doing the cooking. You know what I'm talking about. You've had an experience with people. Look, when you hear the praise team play, you're hearing some really gifted things. When you hear the songs that they're writing, you're hearing gifted things. There are other people that make music. But you know the difference, okay? So you're looking for those who are scripturally understood as teachers. And they will have answers for you. And not because they're smarter. Simply because they're given the answers because it's their job. Okay? I don't think I'm smarter than any of you. I accept that it's my job, though, to answer questions. And by the way, I can tell you, which I don't, again, this is that experience thing where I couldn't explain this to you unless you were me. But I can't tell you the percentage, but it's pretty high, of the answers that are given to me as I'm saying them to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know how much to explain that. But that's part of the whole reason why I'm never afraid of a Q&A. A lot of teachers will never do this because they need to go look it up and study or whatever they have, because this works the way I work, is that I get a question and either I've answered it before, but often whatever the first time I've gotten the question, unless it's a very basic thing that really is just because someone's so brand new, any of you could have answered the question. But I mean, the challenging questions, the first time I answer them, I don't have the answer until he gives it to me as I'm saying it. That's because you needed me to have that answer, because that's the structure. Okay? And that's the only reason I had the answer and you didn't. Not because I'm better, smarter, more, whatever. It's because that's my job. Okay? All right, Manny, go ahead.
Okay, next one is also in Matthew 13:23. Daphne wants to know, I've never noticed yield before. I thought the end result was bearing fruit. Could the yield be the amount of people who are helped by the fruit you bear?
Well, it's simply the yield is basically the amount, okay? We talk about with crops, the yield is, how many bushels or how many pounds or how many whatever it is of the thing that you're producing. So here it's just telling you how much fruit will be produced. It'll produce 100-fold. You can just put the word produce in here. He said, and who indeed bears fruit and produces sometimes 100-fold results. In other words, they're really going to produce a lot of this fruit, whatever that is. He doesn't give a specific idea of what specific fruit he's talking about here. Some will yield or produce 30-fold. Some will produce 60-fold, etc. It's just it's a production level. So think of it this way. When you're new, you may be just producing at a small level of maybe 5 or 10, orders of magnitude or whatever that would be, okay, whatever it is. But as you get better at this. In other words, you're walking it out. It's becoming congruent with who you are. You're becoming more vertically aligned. You're going to start bearing fruit on a much more highly productive level. All right? Let's say I've taught you how, I'll give you an example, kind of a good example I'm thinking. All right? I've taught you how to make a set of seat. It may take you an hour to make your whole first set of 4 seat. That's not a long time necessarily. Let's say it took you an hour. Then we'll get a point where you can make a whole set in 10 minutes. So your productivity rate is increased by what? By practice and developing the skill sets and the muscle memory and all the other things so that you can do stuff without thinking about it as much. It becomes more automatic. And so, yes, you're going to produce fruit, but the yield is going to be dependent on how much you are putting into consistently producing. If I've got a factory that's open every other day for 5 hours, it's going to produce so much. If I turn that factory into producing every day for 5 hours, it's going to produce more. If I turn it into every day for 10 hours, it's going to produce more. In other words, the more you're actively doing it consistently, the more productive it's going to be. So what is the fruit? It doesn't say specifically. We talked a little bit about the fruit of the Ruach, but it's about, again, don't take it into a Christian mindset about the people that you will be affecting in some way. It just that means that whatever it is going to be yielding more. So let's say you're developing more love, you're going to be yielding more, producing more love. More joy, you'll produce more joy. More peace, more patience. Okay? And so think of it from that point of view.
Okay, somebody else would like to know, what's a proper definition of gentleness? Philippians 4:5.
It has to do with, when you are dealing with people, okay, there's the tone, the approach that has a softness metaphorically in how it's received. In other words, I can come and approach you and I can walk nice and easy and softly towards you, or I can kind of be storming towards you. One will feel a lot more gentle. Then when I do get there, my facial expressions, my body language, and my tone of voice can feel either harsh or gentle. The tone, the volume, the loudness, the speed. So if I go over to you and I start talking like this, or if I come over to you and say, excuse me, can I talk to you for a second? The second one is gentle. And I may be giving you the exact same information, but it can be delivered in a gentle way or a harsh way. Okay? All right, so hopefully that made sense. And you don't want to hear me when I do the other one.
Nobody does.
No. And nobody should have to.
Okay, Renaissance would like to know regarding Philippians 4:6-8. How does verse 8 look in reality? It seems it should be easy, but what does that look like in general?
In verse 8,
Yes.
the things that you are to meditate on. Okay, Philippians 4:8. For the rest, brothers, what is true, what is noble, what is righteous, what is clean. Think on these. All right, so, okay, I think I have a fairly simple answer for this. Let's use my process that I give about thoughts, emotions, actions, habits, destinies. He's saying specifically to think on these things. Okay? In other words, to meditate on it, to think about them, to dwell on them. All right? Because remember, it's the things that you dwell on, not just a random thought that you have for a moment, but that you dwell on that eventually get emotions attached. So if you're thinking about things that are scary and worrisome and panicky and everything else, you're going to attach those emotions of worry and panic, etc., to the information that you had received, that you were thinking about. But if you're thinking about things that are true and noble and righteous and clean and lovely and of good report, you're going to have those good emotions which, by the way, happen to match the fruit of the Spirit. You'll have peace and joy and love and all that other good stuff. Taking every thought into captivity. So you're watching the news, and there's information about whatever adverse, negative thing is happening in the world. Don't think about those things. Take the information, decide what you're going to do with it, and then let it go. But when there's things that are lovely and of good report and noble and true, etc., think about those things. Dwell on them. Think about them. And let them come into the heart where the emotions are. The other information is just to be responded to with an action of some sort. So I'm watching the news, there's some horrible things happening, and all my thought is there anything I need to do with that information? If there is, I do it. If there's not, I don't, and that's it. I don't get emotional about it. I don't dwell on it to get emotional. Okay? All right. We got a report on the TV and everything else that there was a tornado warning the other night around 11:30. Okay? So I took the information. No panic, no worry. I said, okay, we're going to watch for this, see what's happening, and then we'll go down into our shelter. We have a very bomb shelterish or whatever, a tornado shelterish basement. We've got a very thick concrete wall, so it was a safe place to go for a tornado. The rest of the house may get ripped off, but I mean, we have the safety down there. And I told the family, I'll make the call and we'll go down. But until then, there's nothing to worry about. It'll either hit us or not. I'm not going to dwell on it. Other people would be sitting there like, oh, I hope it doesn't, I wonder if it's going to hit us. I hope it doesn't hit us. I wonder if it's going to hit us. I hope it doesn't hit us. Let me slow that down for you. I hope it doesn't hit us. I wonder if it's going to hit us. I hope it doesn't hit us. Because now they're dwelling on that. They're thinking about that. I took the information, told everybody in the house. I said, I got everybody down. I said, okay, come here. We're going to be paying attention. We're listening outside because there are telltale signs if a tornado's nearby. We're going to watch for the news, and then we'll go into the shelter. And there came to a time when I said, we're going down to the shelter. I didn't think that the tornado was necessarily going to hit, but there was enough going on that it said, look, we've got another 30 minutes or whatever was going to be of this warning. Let's just go down there and we'll wait the 30 minutes out. And it's information if you're not meditating it on and letting emotion get attached. And information needs to be acted upon. So, for example, I find out that the tornadoes are hitting Chattanooga, but they're not hitting Cleveland. Okay? So now I can take that information and say, okay, my family is safe. But I also have people in Chattanooga that I need to maybe check on, and I could talk to my staff and team and make sure we're checking on people. That's something that we could do, which we did. We contacted everybody we could about the tornadoes as they were coming through late that night. Now, there's no panic. There's no worry. There's action. Information, action. Okay? Information meditated on goes information, emotion, action. You see that we have a different process there. Information, action. Information that's good, noble, true, righteous is dwelled upon, emotion, and then action. Does that make sense? You see the difference? So information, you have to decide what to do with it. Do I meditate on it and allow emotion to get attached to it, or do I just do something with it? Okay? What do I do with that? Is there anything that I do? There was a major earthquake that took out whatever, another country that had something, or a tsunami. I can sit there and go, okay, information, action. I can pray. I can pray for those people. I can pray for the situation. I can take an action. Okay? But I have to make sure that I'm being careful with the emotions. Because there's nothing more I can do. If you do everything you can do, there's no need to get another emotion involved. And I'm not trying to get you to be cold and uncaring. You should still have empathy and sympathy and those kind of things. Emotions can motivate you in the right direction. That's what he was saying, in case you saw me turn over this way. All right? But just understand that this, in reality, now, of course, when you said in reality, I was going to mess with you, and I didn't, because we're not in reality. See, in reality, all we'd be doing is verse 8. Because there wouldn't be anything else to meditate on, because reality is going to be the kingdom. But in this, whatever this is, a shadow of reality, in this place, you have to actually focus your mind. That's what he's saying. Focus your mind on these things, and you'll have peace. If you take the other information, the adverse information, and focus on it, you won't have peace. Okay, next question.
Next question. Well, I think you hit on a lot of what this next question was. That Olivia and Jan Hoffman had a very similar question regarding the exact same verses. The only angle is she wanted to know if there was any life coaching advice you can add.
I think I just gave that. So
Okay.
That's fine. Okay,
Perfect.
so bear in mind, look, I don't want you to think about from an empathetic or sympathetic point of view. I could, if I were, interested in doing so, I could look up and see the genocidal stuff going on, children dying in different places, the extreme poverty, earthquakes, tsunamis, and floods. I could look that up every day and find it everywhere in the world, and I would just be nothing but depressed because I knew there's nothing I could do about those things. And so I'm not saying don't be aware of what's happening in the world, but if you're going to meditate on these things, I don't want you to think, well, I took the information, realized there's nothing I could do, so I just, who cares? It's not that it's a who cares. It's a recognition that if you start to meditate on these things, it would be completely debilitating. There is absolutely horrific things happening every day somewhere in the world. Horrific stuff. And if I just focused on that, how could I function? Now, I can be aware of it. It's information I need to know. I'm monitoring, are we in the tribulation? How bad are things really getting? Where are these things that are happening? How many people are being affected? So I'm trying to be aware, but I don't want to allow myself to emotionally be too drawn into it because it could really cause a terrible place emotionally to realize how awful a place this place is that we live in. And it is, at times, horrifically awful. Okay? Next question.
Okay, another question actually regarding Philippians 4, 6, and 7. They're asking, Shalom is then the result of obedient prayer. Is that correct? Do you recommend half-hour daily prayers?
Okay, so I don't know that I would word it that way. I do recommend half-hour daily prayer. I also recommend, specifically when you say half-hour, I recommend that mostly you're sitting quiet and just letting him have that peace come upon you, so to speak. I don't think you need to talk a whole lot, all right? In the Orthodox, there's one segment of the Orthodox that really promotes what they call hitbadadut, which is the idea of just meditative prayer, where you just get quiet, alone, and allow yourself to connect vertically, okay? And that's something that's encouraged to be done 30 to 60 minutes a day. And the one rabbi who really promotes it the most, he says he's been doing it 30 minutes. Actually, I think he does an hour a day for, 40, 50 years he's been doing. He's an older guy at this point, and he's been doing it most of his life. And he attributes almost all of the joy and peace that he has to the fact that he does this, where he takes that time to get quiet. Now, but that's not the way I would have worded it for these verses. What he's saying in these verses are, look, once you've laid whatever concern you have in prayer at his feet, you then you release any concern about it. It's in his hands, and so then you can be with peace. You have peace from that. So his peace is not coming from the praying. Peace is coming from the releasing. You gave it over to him, and now you have peace. Okay? If somebody brings me, if my daughter were to bring me or my son were to bring me something that they're struggling with and they hand it to me and I say, don't worry, I'll handle it, I take care of it, they don't have to worry about it anymore. I've got it. I may not tell them how I'm going to handle it or what I'm going to do, but they can have complete confidence that if I've taken it, they don't need to own that problem anymore. So when you give it over to the Father, you don't need to own that problem anymore. That doesn't mean that there's nothing for you to do. But the emotional part, the fear, the worry, you don't have to worry about it. You know he's going to allow it to play out or cause it to play out in the way it needs to play out. But you still need to do your part. Whatever he shows you, you need to change something, stop doing, start doing, whatever it is, but you still need to do your part. But the peace comes, he says, don't worry at all, but in every matter by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your request be known to Yahweh, then let it go. The emotional part, let go the fear, the thing that was causing you to need to go before him. Aren't there things that come up in your life all the time that you never go before him and you just handle? So obviously, if you're going before him, it's something that really concerns you. And you're really concerned that you don't know what to do and you don't know how to handle it and you're afraid it's going to go really bad. So you go before him. Well, then when you go before him, release that negative emotion. Okay? Now, from a life coaching point of view, I was thinking about Janet's question. Look, if the way I would tell people with this whole thing in verse 8, if people are coming up to you with things that are not true, not noble, not righteous, not clean, not lovely, and of good report, don't receive it. In other words, cut them off, say, hey, I appreciate you want to share that, but I really am not interested. Don't keep allowing that stuff to be given and sent in your direction. Don't watch the things on TV, don't watch the things on YouTube and video that are going to be not of these categories. And then the other side of it is actively seek the noble, the true, the clean, the lovely, the good report. Okay, that's the life coach part of that. All right, next question.
Okay, Pete and Brenda Lem, actually, I'm going to go back to Philippians 4:6. He had a message. Rabbi's teaching led me to see such a strong link between Philippians 4:6 and Psalm 146, 1 and 2, as well as 46:10.
Okay, 146, 1 and 2, and what was the other one?
I'm sorry, 46, 1 and 2.
Oh, 46, 1 and 2.
And then 46:10.
Okay. Elohim is our refuge and strength, a help in distress and soon found. Therefore we do not fear, though the earth reels and mountains topple into the heart of the seas. Let its okay, then verse 10. Be still and know that I am Yahweh. I am Elohim. I am exalted among. Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. Elohim is your refuge and strength in these terrible times of distress and whatever moment you have of distress. And you need to be still. Look, go back to the fear of Yahweh teaching. I covered this very extensively in that teaching. Look, that was what Moses told them at the sea. He said, be still and see the deliverance. Okay? In Deuteronomy. So, I mean, in Exodus 14, I believe it is. So, I've been off by like one chapter all day today, so let me just double check where I'm trying to get you. Okay, Exodus 14:13. All right. All right, what else you got?
Okay, another one from UC Renegade. Philippians 4:8. Does this mean things like sports, movies, TV shows, et cetera, which are generally not what Paul said we should not engage in?
No. Look, this is not about just all things that you're experiencing. It has to do with those things with which you think on, that you think on. Okay, so you had a problem at work, and you're thinking about it, and you're thinking about it, and you're Facebooking about it, and you're calling your friends about it, and in other words, it's locked into your thoughts now. You had something happen with your spouse. You had something happen with your children. You had something happen, some negative thing you became aware of that somebody else had happened, but now it's disturbed your thoughts and you can't get it out of your head. It's like a song that you just can't get out of your head. So you're thinking on it. Watching a sports game is not the problem. If your team lost and now all you're going to do is be angry all day and fuss about it and whine about it, and that's what we're having the problem with. The thought turning into an emotional place. The negative thought, the adverse thought, okay, the not noble, not righteous, not clean, not good report thought. So it's not saying you can't listen to music and watch TV and watch movies and everything else. It's simply saying is that once you're finished doing it, you don't need to have it locked into your head that you're thinking on it. Okay, change the word in some translations has meditate on these. In other words, have your thoughts to dwell on these things. Your mind, dwelling on these thoughts. That it stays and resides in your head. That it's now owns space in your head. Release it out of your head. Okay? I'm watching the game. As you all know, the Dallas Cowboys is my team. Okay? And they lose. I'm not happy about it. I let it go and I move on. And then my friends tried to tease me about it because they don't want me to let it go. And I can either let it stir me up or I could say, yep, they lost. They were not the better team today. Okay? So, you can have that with anything. It's how you handle and then release, or you handle and dwell upon. He wants you to dwell upon good things, clean things, true things, noble things, not negative things, things that cause you to worry. Remember, this is all connected to verse 6. He's trying to help you understand about things that make you worry. Don't think about those things and dwell on them. Dwell on things that bring peace. The good stuff, the clean stuff, the true stuff, the good report, the noble things. Okay, next.
Rabbi Tom, Philippians 4:9 and 1 Corinthians 11:1 shows that we must look to the fourfold ministry as our example and mentor. We thank you for being an example of what we can look up to.
I appreciate that, Rabbi Tom. So he's talking about where Paul is saying, to do the things that he has shown them. And then, of course, in 1 Corinthians 11, it says, become imitators of me as I also am of Messiah. Okay, so that's 1 Corinthians 11:1. So that is the goal, or should be the goal, of everybody with a microphone, everybody with a responsibility for a group of people, everybody that's shepherding, teaching, or doing any of the fivefold things. Those people should have the goal of being worthy to be imitated. Because that's part of your role, is to be discipling, and discipling is an imitation process. Okay? Next.
Another one. Rabbi, would you say Philippians 4:8, thinking leads to yielding the fruit in Galatians 5:22?
You could certainly have a connection there. But the Galatians 5:22 needs to be something that you are embracing regardless of what you're dwelling on or what's coming into your mind. You have to, look, love, joy, peace, patience, etc. Those things, we have them when everything is great. So from that point of view, I would say, no, it doesn't necessarily connect. Okay? When your life is just chugging along nice and happy, you've got love and joy and peace and gentleness and all that other stuff. Then let something adverse pop into that mix and see if you can maintain the love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, etc., etc. Okay? Can you maintain that? That's the challenge. All right, so here, I'll give you an example. Okay, so the 9 aspects of the fruit. So we're told to love an enemy. Can you love your enemy? You're not in a mood to love anybody. When an enemy comes in, you're mad, you hate, you're this, you're that, you're angry, you want to do harm, whatever. I mean, enemy. We're talking enemy here. She says love an enemy. Joy in a trial, peace when all hell is breaking loose around you and you're worried and panicky about everything. Kindness. Can you be kind to those that you really don't want to be kind to or not being kind to you? Can you be, goodness? Trustworthy? Are you trustworthy in all situations? Is there gentleness in all situations? Do you have self-control in all situations? You have to be asking yourself, with all of the 9 aspects of the fruit, do you have these things in all situations? Look, when you're meditating on all that good stuff, it's easy to have the aspects of the fruit. So I guess I was going to change my answer to no. No, those things are not what yield the fruit. The fruit has to be able to come through in all situations. Those things are to help you to deal with the worry. If you meditate on the things that can cause worry, remember, worry is based on a perception that something adverse is about to happen. There's going to be a consequence or circumstance or harm that you think may come to you or those you care about. And so you worry. And he's telling you, don't focus on that stuff. Stuff like that happens whether you worry about it or not. He says, don't focus on that. Focus on the good stuff. We're all going to die. That's something to worry about, I suppose. Whoa, but wait, if we do what we're supposed to do, we're all going to be in the kingdom. Well, that's something to be excited about. So you could look at it one way or the other, right? You could look at, I'm alive. And then you could, wait a minute, but that's the number 1 cause of death. It's not the coronavirus and it's not heart disease. Life is the number 1 cause of death. So you can always be focused on the fact that you're going to die, or you can focus on the fact that you're alive. Which one do you want to focus on? Okay? What else?
These are going to be more general questions. Steve Waffle, comment and / question. Some delay in weeding out our lives because it hurts more than remaining the same. Can you please cover that aspect?
Say it one more time.
Some delay in weeding out our lives because it hurts more than remaining the same.
Look, we we are, as human beings, we are, again, it goes back to that worry thing, right? If we perceive that where we are now is going to be less threatening, less challenging than changing, we are going to be very reluctant to change. Change is an unknown. Even if the known is already something we don't like, it's still less scary to us and less worrisome because we know it. We're familiar with it. So a lot of people don't make the changes and adjustments and things because it's an unknown. I don't know what it will be like. And that's hard. Okay? But if they have the trust in the Emunah and they can just leave it to him, then you make the changes. I got a bunch of people who are like, well, I don't know what it's going to be like when I stop going to church on Sunday and my husband or my wife is going to be all, well, I know that's scary, but you're going to have to make that decision at some point. You can't be the lukewarm sitting on the fence, with your foot in both worlds. You're in the world, but you're not of the world. So you don't have to be in the places the world likes to hang out. So you have to make those tough choices. Go ahead, next question or comment.
Another person's asking, Isham is asking, I have thorns that are choking my walk. How does one get rid of the thorns, these chains that are binding me? I am aware of my sins, but yet I can't break away from the loop.
This is why you need structure. You need counsel. Because with counsel, you can have somebody who can help you unravel what it is about the things you're struggling with and why you keep struggling with them, even though you, on one level, you want to be rid of them, okay? So it takes a counselor to help you dig deep enough to figure out where the underlying disconnect is that's creating the problem. Because you have an incongruent process here. You don't want to be doing it, but you're still doing it, okay? Part of you says, I don't want to do this anymore. The other part of you is still doing it. So that takes counsel. Which is, again, why we need structure. And by the way, counsel only works if you're going to trust the counsel. Okay? Go ahead, next.
Cynthia would like to know, could we look at tilling, I guess. Could we look at tilling as unlearning what we had been taught?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that in the tilling. Look, you're taking everything that's in that ground that doesn't belong there. So unlearning what was already taught is part of that. So I would say what you were taught is probably less rocks and more weeds, and it's choking things out. So it's more that level of the weeds that's just not leaving room. But yes, tilling it will help you, get rid of all those things.
And Angela just had a quick question. What is the difference between Emunah and Shalom?
Well, Emunah is your trust, faith, and belief. Shalom is what you get as a fruit of Emunah. Okay, Shalom is the peace that you get because you have Emunah. So Shalom is a fruit of Emunah.
Beautifully said.
Okay.
All right, Bride's had a question. Rabbi, do you think it's safe to say that this is an Isaiah 26, 3 and 4, that we should be asking him who he is more than what he can do for us because we can't trust who we don't know?
Okay, I'm not sure I understood the way that question kind of came across, a little discombobulated, but Isaiah 26, 3 and 4, the one steadfast of mind you guard in perfect peace, for he trusts in you. Trust in Yahweh forever, for in Yahweh is a rock of ages. Great verses to make the point I've been making, yes. So I'm not sure how that question all came about, but
I think it's probably the way I read it, that we should be asking him who he is more than what he can do for us because we can't trust who we don't know.
okay, I'll agree with that 100%.
Okay, last one I have here. Olivia Ramirez, is it possible to have a false peace? For instance, when Christians say they have peace of Messiah, since they are not covenanted but don't even realize it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. And actually, that's part of what we're going to see in the places where there's verses where it says, and people say peace, peace, when, there's no peace. There's the world's way of producing peace. There's all of the religions of the world's ways of thinking that they're producing peace, and then there's the truth. Okay, and that's the difference. Look, and again, I hope everybody appreciates, and this is not to pat myself on the back at all, but for those that are out there, as you will hear, attack me and the ministry, etc. I mean, how many ministries will sit after a teaching and just take all the questions until they're done generally and that kind of thing? And I don't do that to raise myself up. This is because that's my heart. My wife will tell you that ever since we started ministry, I realized that especially at the beginning when people hadn't heard anything I'd ever taught, I realized I was throwing stuff out there that people just really never heard before. And I got a lot of like crickets and deer in the headlights looks from people. And I realized I needed to give them an opportunity to ask, to make sure they understood. Because I wasn't sure they received what I said the way I intended it. So I said, well, feel free to ask. And we've done that now for 20 years or plus. This is the way we've always done the ministry, because I'm not always sure based on now we don't have a lot of people in the room here, so I can't see the faces responsible, but a lot of times in the room, I'm getting a lot of, this look of like, okay, I'm just starting to process what you just said, and there's just a lot there, and I don't know what to do with it yet. And then I want to make sure that people actually understood it the way I intended it. Because you have to remember, the hardest thing we do as human beings is try to communicate from one person to the other what we fully intend to say. Just because I said it doesn't mean you received it the way I intended it. We see this throughout the scriptures. Yahweh said a lot of things. A lot of people have lots of different ideas of what he intended when he said it. And so that's tough. It's confusing. So I hope that's appreciated by everyone. I do appreciate the opportunity because I do want you to understand, because that is the number one goal of the teacher, is to give you the information and have you understand it so that you can do it and that you can ultimately transform and conform into Yeshua's image and be in the kingdom. Amen? Amen. Okay.
Your turn.